You all look very serious. That's better.
Oh, honey, I guess I need some help. I saw people, but then they disappeared. Oh, well. Oh, wait. It's okay. It looks like it's starting. Except it.
Just click the mute button.
We gather here to worship, to seek the truth, to grow in love, to join in service, to celebrate life's beauty and find healing for its pain, to honor our kinship with each other and with the earth, to create a more compassionate world, beginning with ourselves, to wonder at the mystery that gave us birth, to find courage for the journey's end, and to listen for the wisdom that guides us in the quietness of this moment. With these words, we gather here to worship by Reverend Gary Kowalski, I welcome you to worship with our Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder community via Zoom. I am Janet Evans, your worship leader this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we promise that we will stay connected to each other as we search for truth and meaning, each in our own way. We covenant with all of life and seek to repair any disconnect, isolation, or separation, especially during these trying times. UUCB's mission is to be a beacon of liberal religion, to connect bravely, deepen spiritually, embody justice, and always love. If you're a first-time visitor or want more information about us, we invite you to contact our Congregational Life Director, Beth Elliott. Her contact information is on the screen below and on our website, uuchurchofboulder.org. This month, our church pledge drive is underway. If you haven't returned your pledge card, please email or mail your pledges to Beth. Thank you. Now, as we enter our time of worship, please silence your computers and phones. To mute Zoom, click on the microphone icon in the lower left of your computer screen. If you are experiencing difficulties with Zoom, you can call or text Beth, 505-250-6786, or email director@uucb.gmail.com.
This is the day that has been given to us. It is a day that we could not have created, that we could not have earned. And regardless whether or not we deserve it, this day still comes to us. And it does come as a gift from the universe, a gift from God, a gift from life itself. So come and let us worship with gratitude for this and so many gifts, with humility for our shortcomings, and with hope that we will continue to transform our lives and to transform our world. And with these words, I too welcome you to joining us online here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. I'm Reverend Eric Posa, interim minister. It is good to be together on this day, and I am so thankful that we have the opportunity, even as we are physically distanced from one another, to be together in this online space. If you have a chalice, small home chalice or candle that you can have near your computer, we can share together in our chalice lighting ritual in a few moments. And I invite you to stick around after our worship concludes. We're trying something different today for the first time. We're going to have fellowship hour, and there'll be an opportunity for us to have conversations with one another after the worship service concludes. We'll say more about that as the time comes. But I invite us now to join together in the spirit of worship as we prepare to sing our opening hymn, Be Ours a Religion. The words will shortly be on your screen.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple all speaks, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
please take your chalice or your candle and let us, as we get ready to light it, as we hear our chalice lighter speak, also, I invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is lit, as I am doing right now. And that way, by knowing the street or neighborhood where we are gathered, or what city, if you're joining us from outside Boulder County, we will know who and how we are all together. And with that, I'll invite Carol Teal. Carol?
Good morning, my UU friends. My name is Carol Teal, and I've been a member here for almost 3 years. This is the 4th UU community that I've been fortunate to belong to over many decades. This morning, I want to share some thoughts about gratitude. This is my spiritual practice and has been since I was about 10 years old, and learned this superpower from my beloved father, who was paralyzed in an airplane accident. He was very strong with this power. He truly saw each day as a gift. So here's some things that I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful to Catherine Marsh. Hey, Catherine, who asked me to be a co-chair of the pledge drive this year. I'm grateful for Andy Burgess. Hey, Andy, who let me run with some new ideas this year. And I'm grateful to develop a friendship with Beth Elliott. Hey, Beth, who is a remarkable human being that I would not have gotten to know as well otherwise. I'm also grateful to the 14 UUCB members who said yes when I called to ask them to join the pledge drive. Thanks, everyone. And I'm grateful for the person who called me up unasked and said, let me help. Thank you, Diane. And I'm grateful for new friends that I've connected with during this process, including one woman living in a senior community who reminds me so much of my mother, who is no longer with us. I am grateful to Ingrid, if you're here, Ingrid, who shows us how to do confinement with such grace, and to her beautiful children who bring joy into our lives and our home. I'm grateful for the amazing staff we have who are stepping up with love and technology to keep us all connected during this global crisis. And I'm grateful to our UUCB leadership, the board members, who I'm sure didn't know what lay ahead when they signed up for this service. I'm also grateful to all the volunteers in this community and the wider world, especially the scientists and the doctors and the nurses and all the healthcare providers. And I'm grateful to be a part of this community. Gratitude is a superpower. It gets stronger the more you practice it. And I light this chalice or candle for gratitude for this Unitarian Universalist community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. My name is Andy Burgess, and I am the treasurer of UUCB. I've been a member since 2008, and I'm here to talk to you about our pledge drive. Today is the wrap-up to our 2020-2021 fiscal year pledge drive, and thank goodness everything went really well, and there were no extra challenges or special circumstances this time around, right? Boy, I sure do. This is another instance where I miss being together because my everybody's microphone's being muted. I can't tell how well that went over. Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. I see that. Our theme for the pledge drive has been our shared responsibility, and that theme could not have been chosen in a more timely fashion. Just as circumstances are requiring that we change our lives for the safety of our entire community, our faith empowers us to stand for the good of each other. We continue our good work. Ingrid and the kids are safe. The Little Apple Preschool is supporting families who can't work from home, including medical staff from the hospital. We're connecting every day with our community through our continuation of programs and services and creating new ways for us all to continue to support each other and build our community bonds, even as we are physically apart. We ask that everyone turn in their pledges today. You can send a private email with your name and the amount, or just snap a photo with your pledge card and text that to Beth Elliott. Her email and phone number are both in the chat for this Zoom meeting and are also on the church website. And just a reminder that online monthly giving scheduled through your bank bill pay costs the church nothing. Other methods are certainly possible and totally fine, and details for those are in your pledge packets. We also want to honor the fact that many of us are going to be impacted financially due to this pandemic. And no matter what your circumstances, we are here for you. For those who face financial uncertainty, we are grateful for the many ways you are generous and will continue to be able to be generous with the church. For those that are in a position to give, we are so grateful for your generosity. So to close out this year's Our Shared Responsibility Pledge Drive, I ask everyone to join me in making a heart and sharing it on your screen. Connect bravely, deepen spiritually, embody justice, and always love. Thank you.
May the many chalice lights now shining across our community inspire us with the knowledge that even in our individual homes and locations, we are together with others in our shared hopes and faith. We now invite all those gathered in your various locations to rise in body or in spirit and join together in the spirit of fellowship and community as we all say aloud our congregation's covenant. The words are in your online order of service and on the screen. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it.
There's a story told in many Jewish communities. It's a story about a wise rabbi who traveled from place to place, from community to community, and was widely regarded for the depth of his spiritual insight. One town where he was coming to offer a guest lecture, they had to move the location from the synagogue because too many people were coming. They had to rent the largest lecture hall at the nearby college because people throughout the town and even from several neighboring towns were planning to attend. And many knew how well regarded this rabbi was. But some of the synagogue leaders were a little uncertain because while all of the comments they had heard about him from others had been complimentary, usually overwhelmingly so, they'd also been kind of vague. They didn't truly know what to expect. And they became even more surprised when the rabbi made the strange request in advance that musicians be present as he lectured, and that before he began, as people gathered, that they play music, upbeat secular music. The leaders weren't sure what to think, but they made it happen. And when the night finally came, the rabbi, along with a leader at the local synagogue, came forward. And as the local leader was introducing the rabbi, he went over to speak to the musicians for a couple of moments. Then, as the introduction concluded, the rabbi came to the lectern and said, "I know that many of you, as happens in so many places where I speak, have come here with numerous questions about our lives and our spirituality. And I want to offer a way that might help to answer some of those questions." But then he turned and nodded to the musicians, and to their surprise, and forgive me as I make an adjustment to my camera here, he stood up. And as the music began playing, he began to move. And nobody knew why. But soon as the music sped up, they realized that this man was dancing. Absolutely dancing with joy. And they were so confused. He was saying nothing. He was simply dancing on the stage. The people were stunned, and some of them were asking themselves, what in the name of Moses and Aaron and Miriam is going on here? But then others actually started to think about Moses, his brother Aaron, and sister Miriam. They remembered the story from Torah of the three of them gathered with the newly freed people of Israel on the far shore of the Red Sea, dancing for joy because Pharaoh had just been defeated. They remembered the celebrations after Queen Esther had freed the Jews and had helped to end the exile in Babylon. And as that man continued to dance, suddenly some of them started standing up. And they started dancing along with him. And soon the entire crowd, everyone who could, was standing and dancing in their seats as best they could. Some moved to dance to the aisles. Others were moving to the music in their seats. The joy was overwhelming in that crowd. They all felt, as a result, a deeper connection, a connection in their dancing with one another, a connection with the God that they understood to have called them together into covenant with each other. And the rabbi, well, I'll say more about the rabbi later in this service.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
We share with one another in so many ways as we worship. Let us take a moment, even though we may be together in a very different way, to share the blessings and the concerns that we carry with us, to share those life transitions that may have impacted us in recent days. And in particular, I want to lift up a few members of our congregation who already have been directly affected by COVID-19, who have themselves fallen ill. To Patty and Rob Leidick, to Robin Miller and her husband, Helgi, all of whom have taken ill, though I'm pleased to say that all report at least beginning the road to recovery. And I know of at least one other member did not connect to ask about sharing that person's name, but who has good reason to believe they had the illness even earlier, but has already recovered. And while we give thanks for the blessings of recovery, certainly our concerns stay with the families. But perhaps you too have come to this time of worship with concerns and or blessings. I'm going to invite you to utilize our technology to share them by opening the chat function here on the Zoom program that we're gathered on. It's found near the bottom of your screen. And in that chat box, type the word blessing or the word concern, or both, if they both apply. We don't quite have time to share details, but if your blessing or concern involves another person or people, you may briefly type who they are as well, share their identities. For in this symbolic sharing, may we lessen the weight of our concerns, and may we amplify the impact of our blessings. Please share now. For all these blessings and all these concerns, we offer our prayerful thoughts and support as a caring community of faith.
Good morning, everyone. I invite you now to settle into a comfortable position. Maybe your feet are on the floor. And I invite you to begin to focus on your breathing. And allow yourself to close your eyes if you'd like. As we settle in, I'm not going to ask you today to let go of your thoughts and feelings. Instead, I invite you to gently hold your hands out as we hold our thoughts, our worries, our concerns, everything that's been on your mind. Hold them in your hands. Perhaps you've been deeply distracted by these thoughts dominating your mind and your heart. So let's not ignore them today or push them away. Hold them, acknowledge them, and honor them for what's honestly happening to you right now. Notice where in your body you are experiencing these thoughts and feelings. And how do they affect your breathing? If you can, put your hands on this part of your body, wherever that is. Let go of telling yourself that you shouldn't feel this way. And if tears come, let them come. Now, my friends, remember all that you love, all the sources of love. As you breathe in, you are breathing in all of that love. And now gently blow that love into your hands, into your worries and your concerns. Breathe in that love and blow that love into those worries and concerns. Do it again. And now gently set down all that you are holding as if you are putting a baby to bed. Just set them down. I invite you to put your hands back on your heart or wherever those worries are in your body. And remember, these worries, fears, anger, and such are all real, but they are not the whole story. We are resilient and wise, and we were made to handle this. The DNA that runs through our being pulses with the same capacity of our ancestors to overcome adversity. Perspectives are shifting and priorities are realigning in beautiful and healing ways for ourselves and our planet. In the midst of adversity, we are surrounded by miracles unfolding before our eyes. There is more to the story. So let the blessing that surrounds you, all those blessings that surround you, all that love, settle deep into your bones and know that you are not alone. We, my friends, are all in this together. And yes, we can do this. May it be so. Amen. Take a few moments of silent meditation.
Our reading by environmental philosopher David Abram comes from his book, The Spell of the Sensuous, Perception and Language in a More Than Human World. He writes, the living attentive body, the body subject, is the very power I have to look and see things, or to turn away and look elsewhere, the ability to cry and to laugh, or to howl at night with the wolves, to find and gather food, whether in a forest or a market, the power to walk upon the ground and to imbibe the swirling air. Yet I do not deploy these powers like a commander piloting a ship, for I am, in my depths, indistinguishable from them, as my sadness is indistinguishable from a certain heaviness of my bodily limbs, or as my delight is only artificially separable from the widening of my eyes, from the bounce in my step and the heightened sensitivity of my skin. Indeed, facial expressions, gestures, and spontaneous utterances like sighs and cries seem to immediately incarnate feelings, moods, and desires without my being able to say which came first, the gesture or the feeling.
This month, we wrap up our monthly theme of wisdom. And I continue this series in worship, reflecting on the various parts of our church's new mission statement today, reflecting on what it means to deepen spiritually. And I think of that story of the wise rabbi in relationship to both of these things. And I think of it particularly from the perspective of the people who had gathered to hear the lecture, for while they came with all of these spiritual questions and yearnings for wisdom, the fact that they were so puzzled at first by the rabbi's behavior, well, that certainly was understandable. After all, the rabbi's dancing ran counter to so many of our basic notions of wisdom and spirituality, especially here in the West, where we have tended to assume a dualism, a separation between mind and body, between spirit and body. And that division, that dualism, has had countless implications for us over the centuries. It has led all too often to a denigration of our bodies and to disdain for them. It has led to a overly simplistic, mechanized view of the universe that even the atheist writer Christopher Hitchens denounced as a vulgar materialism. And it has, of course, led to a devaluing of nature and to the environment, or as David Abram in the reading and the title of the reading so influentially called it, the more than human world. But you know, this understanding, this idea that there's a divide between mind and body, between spirit and body, it's not the only understanding. Because more and more, we're coming to see ourselves as embodied beings, as bodies, cells. We're beginning to see ourselves not simply as machines that we inhabit, see our bodies not just as machines we inhabit, but as integral to who we are. Because we encounter this world in which we live, and we interact with all that is not ourselves with various parts of our bodies, with our eyes, with our skin, with our feet, and yes, with our brains. So if spirituality starts with experience, as I've long believed that it does, and all of our experience comes through our bodies, then our spiritual experiences are also embodied experiences. So despite that stereotype of spirituality as some rarefied or disembodied aspect of our lives, our spirituality, our responses to whatever we take to be ultimate in our lives, are also interwoven with our physicality. So living a well-rounded and a multifaceted spiritual life includes incorporating practices, spiritual practices, that intentionally help us develop our body's engagement with that which is ultimate. And there's a number of spiritual practices that have risen within the classical religious traditions of the West as well as of the East. Certainly many schools of yoga help in guiding the soul toward moksha, or liberation from suffering, as they also engage our body in movement. So does the Chinese discipline of Tai Chi, which uses bodily movements to channel sacred energy, leading to greater health and longevity. Or, as you saw briefly in the photo on the slide, the act of walking the labyrinth is a symbolic pilgrimage to the Holy Land, is how it was originally conceived, and also a practice that, as it gently moves the body along the path, quiets the mind to open our spirits to meditate on God, on the divine, on what we know as holy or sacred. We do speak in our church's mission statement of deepening spiritually, but I'm also recognizing that these are hard times, and deepening our spirituality by embodying that spirituality, well, it's not an obvious lesson, and it may seem a challenging one, but it's nonetheless an important one for those of us who can work towards it. It has been true for so many years that so many of us live in a culture which encourages us towards sedentary lives in many ways, and to live lives that are disconnected from our bodies. That is so much more true now as we're sheltering in place. I remember a post earlier this week from a colleague of mine, a staff member at UUA denominational headquarters, who talked about how many meetings he had and how he found, to his surprise, that he was preferring meetings over the phone to meetings over Zoom or other kinds of video conferencing, because at least while he was on the phone, he could walk around his apartment and get closer to getting in his 10,000 steps per day. And it makes sense, because it's easy for us to get sedentary during this time especially, which makes it all the more easy for us to disconnect from the physical aspects of ourselves. Our sleep schedules change, our daily and weekly routines are so different from what we're used to. We may not be seeking out a labyrinth, but there are still ways that we can engage our bodies. We can do yoga in the living room. We can take mindful walks in our neighborhoods. We can even engage in these simple practices of taking a more mindful approach to basic daily tasks. I've seen meditations written about washing the dishes, about brushing our teeth, and my absolute favorite from the great Buddhist writer Thich Nhat Hanh, his meditation on taking out the garbage and the lesson that has to teach us about the impermanence of all things. But if you can find a practice that helps ground you back in your body, that helps reconnect you to yourself physically and spiritually, you may well find yourself just a bit better able to cope with the stresses, with the challenges that these anxious and difficult times present. And maybe we'll open ourselves to hearing some new kinds of answers to what it all means. And that brings me back to the wise rabbi. Yes, the people came to hear his words of wisdom, to clear up their own deep questions about life. And instead, they all found themselves dancing, inspired by a deep joy, not just a surface cheerfulness, but a depth of joy that seemed to well up within the rabbi and exude from him. The dancing continued for many ecstatic moments until finally the music reached a crescendo, came to its end. And as everyone paused to catch their breath, the rabbi walked tiredly over to the pulpit, looked over the crowd, and said simply, "I trust that your questions have now been answered." May we too, may we find answers where we would not expect, to the questions that drive our spirits forward even in these times of challenge. So may it be for us all. Amen.
During this season of not meeting in the same physical space, we nonetheless continue our ministries, including new online ministries described on our church's website, new blog. We continue to welcome offering donations now through online giving, as well as checks mailed to the church. The link for UUCB's online contributions page has just been added as a comment to this online post and can also be found on the UUCB webpage. We especially welcome those who can to set up monthly online payments, as our church pays no fees for recurring payments. We also continue our support of nonprofit community partners in our Share the Plate program. In March, we split our offering plate with the local nonprofit Cultivate, formerly known as Boulder County Care Connect. This organization serves elders in Boulder County and others who are shut-ins in a number of ways, including grocery shopping and delivery, making simple household repairs, yard cleanup, snow shoveling, and driving veterans to medical appointments that may be outside of Boulder County. All of these services are provided at no charge. May we be as generous as we can. We now receive the offering. By funding our church and our nonprofit partners, we create connection, relationships, and belonging. Thank you for your gifts. Now, please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, Wake Now My Senses. The words are on the screen.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
And so, as we extinguish the flames in our individual chalices, may we go forth from this virtual gathering, knowing that we are blessed with freedom and with wholeness. Our worship may now end, but our service still continues. Let us, in our many ways, from our many places, continue to serve this hurting world in the spirit of love. Go in peace, but please stay for fellowship hour.
Welcome, welcome everyone who's still here.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
We invite you to stay with us in our Zoom room for a time of online fellowship. And now our Congregational Life Director, Beth Elliott. Beth, how